I actually like you. Just 7 simple words. Like a bomb exploding in my mind. The sentence instantly shattered all my thoughts. I jumped up from the sofa, my heart pounding violently as if it was about to break through my chest. I was crazy. Completely crazy. I had accidentally sent a confession message to the coldest, strictest, and most impossible to approach female superior in the entire company. This was no longer something that could be described as embarrassing. This was a complete death sentence for my career. I could already imagine what tomorrow would look like. Su Qinyan would glance at me with those cold, indifferent eyes. Then either transfer me away from the company's core projects or find a reason to fire me directly. My hands and feet went numb from panic. My fingertips trembled uncontrollably. My first reaction was to delete the message. But the screen froze for a second. A line of red text appeared. This message has exceeded 2 minutes and cannot be recalled. Those 2 short seconds felt longer than 2 centuries. I stared desperately at my phone screen. The chat window remained completely silent. No scene. No reply. Nothing. But I knew Su Qinyan too well. She had obsessive habit. Her phone was never muted. Her work account stayed online 24 hours a day. The moment a message arrived, she would see the notification. She had definitely read it. She just didn't want to reply. Maybe she found it ridiculous. Maybe she thought it was absurd that an ordinary low-level employee like me would dare to have feelings for someone as unreachable as her. My mind raced. I hurriedly typed a message to fix the situation, deleting and rewriting it over and over again. Every word was carefully considered. President Su, I'm sorry. I accidentally sent that to the wrong person. It was completely a mistake. Please don't misunderstand. I pressed send. Still nothing. The other side remained silent. The suffocating silence felt unbearable. This kind of silent rejection was far more painful than direct questioning or a cold reprimand. I paced around my living room anxiously, my back already soaked with cold sweat. 2 years of secretly hiding my feelings had been completely destroyed by one careless mistake tonight. I even started organizing the documents on my desk, preparing myself to resign tomorrow and leave with whatever dignity I had left. I knew Su Qinyan's personality very well. She was extremely rational, extremely disciplined, and she hated workplace relationships, especially anything that crossed the boundary between superior and subordinate. This mistake, in her eyes, would be nothing less than disrespect. A reckless obsession from someone who didn't know his place. 5 minutes, 5 whole minutes. Every single second felt like endless torture. Just as I was about to completely lose control of my emotions and submit my resignation letter, trying to preserve the last bit of dignity I had left. 3 steady, slow, yet incredibly intimidating knocks suddenly sounded from outside my door. Knock, knock, knock. The force wasn't heavy, but every sound landed perfectly on the rhythm of my heartbeat. I lived in an old residential building. The floor wasn't high, and I barely interacted with my neighbors. At this hour, there was absolutely no reason for anyone to visit. My scalp instantly went numb. My footsteps became stiff as I slowly moved toward the door. I looked outside through the peephole. Just one glance. My entire body froze. My breathing stopped completely. Under the dim yellow hallway light but a slender and graceful figure. She wore a perfectly tailored black business suit, even in the middle of the night. Her makeup was flawless, her hair perfectly arranged, and her cold, elegant features remained distant and untouchable beneath the light. It was not Su Qinyan. Who else could it be? She lived in a luxury Riverview apartment in the city center. The distance between her home and my old neighborhood was at least 20 minutes by car. 5 minutes ago, I had accidentally sent her that message. 5 minutes later, she was standing right outside my door. My brain completely shut down. All the panic, anxiety, and fear instantly disappeared. Only shock and disbelief remained. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door. The hallway lights spilled into my apartment, illuminating the cold side profile of her face. She raised her eyes. Those dark eyes locked directly onto mine. There was no anger. No mockery. Only a calmness so deep that I couldn't see through it. The air instantly became heavy. The temperature seemed to drop. Her thin lips parted sly. Tly. Her voice was cold and low. without the slightest emotional fluctuation. Yet every word carried overwhelming pressure. Lin-Chen, why did you take so long to open the door? Were you trying to avoid me? I froze at the entrance. My fingertips still trembled from opening the door, facing Su Qingyan's eyes that seemed to see through everything. I knew there was nowhere to hide my panic. Usually at work, with a desk between us, I barely dared to look directly at her, but now, alone with her late at night, in this narrow entranceway, the distance between us felt impossibly close. A suffocating pressure surrounded me. I could even clearly smell the faint woody fragrance on her. It was the niche perfume she always wore, cold, elegant, expensive, exactly like her personality. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to calm down. I tried my best to make my voice sound normal. President Su, why are you here? It's so late. I really didn't expect you to come. Su Qingyan stepped inside in her high heels without hesitation. There was no trace of awkwardness as a guest. The hem of her black suit skirt brushed lightly against the floor. Her entire presence carried the powerful aura of someone who kept everyone at a distance. She didn't look around the apartment. Her eyes remained fixed on me from beginning to end. Her dark pupils hid all emotions, making it impossible to guess what she was thinking. I came over after receiving your message. Her tone was calm. Just one simple sentence, but it made my entire scalp explode. I immediately waved my hands in panic. The explanation I had prepared rushed out all at once. President Su, I'm really sorry. I swear I accidentally sent it to the wrong person. I had a bit too much to drink during dinner tonight, and my mind wasn't clear. I was actually joking with a friend. I didn't mean to click on your chat window. I caused you trouble. I'm truly sorry. My attitude was lowered to the extreme. At that moment, all I felt was anxiety and fear. In my understanding, this was the only way I could protect myself, confessing to my superior, crossing the boundaries between an employee and a boss. Someone like Su Qingyan, who valued rules and dignity above everything else. This was an unforgivable workplace taboo. After finishing my explanation, I lowered my head slightly. I was already prepared to be criticized, prepared for her cold gaze, prepared for her to announce what would happen to me next. But the reprimand I expected never came. The cold accusation never arrived. Su Qingyan stood only half a step away from me. She quietly watched my nervous and embarrassed appearance. She remained silent for several seconds. The room became terrifyingly quiet. The only sound was my slightly rushed breathing. After a long while, she finally spoke. Her voice was calm, impossible to read. Sent to the wrong person. Yes, absolutely. I immediately answered. I almost wanted to raise my hand and swear. I definitely didn't mean to offend you. I never intended to disrespect you or cross any boundaries. It was purely an accident. Please don't take it seriously. I desperately tried to distance myself from the confession. I only wanted this matter to disappear quietly. I wanted to keep my job. I wanted to keep the last bit of dignity I had. Just when I thought she would let it go and leave coldly, the situation suddenly changed. Su Qingyan slowly leaned forward. She closed the final distance between us. Her cold eyes moved closer. The usual distance and indifference in her gaze gradually faded away. Instead, something I had never seen before appeared. A fragile tenderness. A softness that seemed to have been suppressed for a very long time. Her voice lowered slightly. The cold authority she always carried at work disappeared. Only a faint trace of hoarseness remained. Her words went straight into, "Oh my heart. If I took it seriously, what then?" My mind went completely blank. It felt as if lightning had struck me. My entire body froze. My blood seemed to stop flowing in that instant. I stared at the woman in front of me. For a moment, I wondered if I had imagined it. Su Qingyan, the woman who stood above everyone else, the cold, quiet director who ignored every admirer, the woman who never gave anyone unnecessary attention in the company. She had actually said, "If I took it seriously." Those few words hit me harder than if she had scolded me, harder than if she had fired me. I opened my mouth, but for a long time, no sound came out. Finally, I asked stiffly, "President Su, what did you just say?" She straightened herself, returning to her elegant and composed posture, but the tenderness in her eyes did not disappear. Instead, It became even deeper. A restrained affection I had never seen before appeared on her face. Linchin, you have been with the company for 2 years, she suddenly spoke, slowly recalling the past. Every time we faced a difficult project, you were always the last person to leave. Your reports never had mistakes. When others left their unfinished problems behind, you silently took over and fixed everything. You never complained. I was completely stunned. These tiny details that I had never even remembered myself. To me, they were simply things I should do as an employee. I had always believed that in front of the dazzling Su Qingyan, my efforts were insignificant, not worth mentioning. But she remembered everything. Do you really think my strictness toward you was the same as my attitude toward ordinary employees? Su Qingyan looked deeply at me. All the coldness in her voice disappeared. What remained was a feeling she had hidden for a long time. I have never wasted even a little attention on people who don't matter to me. I was completely speechless. My heart was beating violently. Each heartbeat sent a wave of numbness through my entire body. For the past 2 years, I had always believed that my feelings were nothing more than a one-sided, humble crush. I carefully hid every bit of affection I had for her. I never dared to cross the line. I was afraid that if she discovered my feelings, everything would end in an awkward and humiliating way. But now, her words completely overturned everything I had believed for the past 2 years. It turned out I was never alone in this. It turned out this woman who seemed like an eternal iceberg had already noticed me long ago. And she had been hiding feelings just like mine. A huge wave of shock and happiness overwhelmed me. For a moment, I didn't know how to react. My entire body felt slightly warm. I looked at her cold and exquisite features. Then I carefully tested the waters. President Su, what exactly do you mean? Su Qingyan lowered her eyes slightly. Her long eyelashes trembled faintly. She had completely put away the dominance and authority she displayed at work. For the first time, she revealed a rare softness. The female director, who was usually decisive and fearless, now stood quietly in my living room late at night, showing a tenderness that belonged only to me. My meaning is. She looked up. A faint light shimmered in her eyes. Every word was clear. The message you sent me. The one where you said you liked me. I was happy, and I have been waiting for those words for a very long time. The confession I sent tonight was real. I had truly liked her for 2 years. I had never dared to say it, never dared to show it. The message I accidentally sent was actually the deepest truth I had buried in my heart for the longest time. The moment my words fell, I clearly saw the light in Su Qingyan's eyes suddenly brighten. The gentle expression she had just shown was now like sparks ignited by the night wind. Countless emotions filled her eyes. Her usually calm and restrained expression finally broke. Her slender fingertips trembled almost imperceptibly. The aura of someone who had always been unshakable finally showed a crack. 2 years of mutual restraint. 2 years of hidden feelings. At this moment, every disguise completely collapsed. She stared at me. Her voice became even softer, carrying a slight tremble that came from emotions suppressed for too long. You really meant it. You weren't joking because you were drunk. It wasn't just a moment of impulse. I nodded firmly. My eyes were clear. There was no hesitation. Never. On my first day at the company, I saw you calmly handle the executives who challenged you during the meeting. You protected the new employees without fear. That moment has stayed in my mind until today. For these 2 years, I worked hard and never slacked off. It wasn't only because of salary or my future. It was because I wanted to get a little closer to you. Closer and closer. I finally said the secret I had hidden in my heart for 2 years. Before this, I always thought our identities were too different. Our backgrounds were worlds apart. My feelings seemed too insignificant, too impossible to mention. But at this moment, looking at Su Qingyan's slightly reddened eyes, I suddenly understood. Real feelings had never been about status. It was never about who was higher or lower. We were simply two people who had silently cared about each other and hidden our feelings for too long. Su Qingyan slowly raised the hand hanging beside her, her fingertips gently ched her forehead. It seemed like she was trying to calm the overwhelming emotions inside her. I wasted 2 years trying to hold myself back. Her voice was soft. There was a hint of helplessness in it. But more than that, there was the warmth of something she had almost lost and finally regained. I thought I was the only one who felt this way. So I kept following the rules. I didn't dare take even one step beyond the boundary. I was afraid I would disrupt your life. I was afraid workplace rumors would hurt you. That sentence completely shattered all my anxiety. I and everyone else's eyes. Su Qingyan was an untouchable figure, cold, powerful, decisive. A woman who could control an entire department. Yet the one thing she could never control was her feelings for me. She carefully restrained herself, step by step, using the coldest exterior to hide the warmest and purest affection. I gathered all the courage I had. I stepped forward slightly, closing the distance between us. Then I softly said, Su Qingyan, you don't have to hold back anymore. The crisis that had troubled me for 2 years was finally resolved, but what I didn't expect was that this was only the beginning. After Gao Lei was removed from his position, the entire company underwent a major restructuring. Many people who had once followed him began to panic. They realized that the person they had underestimated all this time was never an ordinary employee. In the following days, my name appeared frequently in internal company discussions, not because of rumors, not because of my relationship with Su Qingyan, but because of my own achievements, the projects I had completed, the profits I had created, the problems I had solved, all the things that had been buried for 2 years were finally seen by everyone. The same people who once questioned me began to change their attitudes. Those who had ignored me before started greeting me politely. Those who had doubted my ability began to admit my achievements. But I no longer cared about their opinions, because I had already passed the stage where I needed everyone's approval. What mattered to me was that I finally understood one thing. A person's value was never determined by other people's words. It was proven through time and actions. 1 week later, the company held a new management meeting. This time, I was no longer sitting in the corner. I sat at the center of the conference table. The position that originally seemed impossible to reach was now right in front of me. The chairman announced my promotion. Lin Qin, from today onward, you will officially become the new project director. The entire conference room applauded. I looked at Su Qingyan. She sat there quietly, but the pride in her eyes was impossible to hide. She didn't give me this position. She only gave me the opportunity to prove myself, and I used my own ability to seize it. After the meeting ended, I found her standing alone on the rooftop. The city stretched endlessly beneath us. The wind gently moved her hair. She was still the same Su Qingyan, elegant, calm, powerful. But now, I knew the person hidden behind that cold appearance. The woman who would quietly protect me. The woman who would wait for me. The woman who loved me more deeply than anyone else. You knew I would come here. I walked toward her. Su Qingyan smiled slightly. Yes. How? I asked. She looked at me. Because every time you faced pressure in the past, you would come here alone. I froze. Another small detail I had never noticed. She remembered everything about me. What about you? I asked. Why do you always come here? She was silent for a moment. Then she answered softly. Because this is the place where I could secretly watch you. And my heart skipped a beat. Watch me. She nodded. When you stayed late at the office. When you worked overtime alone. When you looked exhausted but still refused to give up. I saw all of it. I wanted to tell you. You were already doing great. But I couldn't. Because I was afraid that once I stepped closer, I wouldn't be able to control my feelings anymore. The wind passed between us. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I reached out. I gently held her hand. Su Qingyan, you don't need to hide anymore. She looked at me. This time, there was no hesitation. No distance. No fear. She leaned against my shoulder. For the first time, the woman who had always carried everything alone allowed herself to depend on someone. Lin Qin. Her voice was quiet. Do you know what I was most afraid of? What? I was afraid that after you learned the truth, you would realize you never needed me. I shook my head. No, I needed you. But not because of your position. Not because you could help my career. I needed you because you are the person who believed in me when I doubted myself. Her eyes slowly turned red, and at that moment, the distance between us completely disappeared. From that day onward, everything began to change. The relationship between Su Qingyan and me was no longer a secret we had to hide. Of course, We did not immediately announce it to the entire company. We both understood that a workplace relationship between a superior and an employee would inevitably attract attention. But unlike before, we were no longer afraid. Because this time, I was no longer someone standing behind her. I had my own achievements. My own position. My own confidence. A month later, the company held its annual celebration. This was the biggest event of the year. All employees gathered in the grand banquet hall. The lights were dazzling. The atmosphere was lively. In the past, I had always sat in the corner during these events, watching others receive awards, watching others stand on stage, watching people who seemed much better than me receive applause. But this year, everything was different. When my name was announced, the entire hall fell silent for a moment. Outstanding Contribution Award. Project Director Lin Shin. The applause that followed was louder than I had ever imagined. I walked onto the stage, looking down at everyone. At that moment, I remembered myself 2 years ago, the employee who doubted himself, the person who thought he would never be noticed, the person who believed he was not worthy of standing beside Su Qingyan. But now, I was standing here, not because someone gave me special treatment, not because someone protected me, but because I had proven myself, after receiving the award. I looked toward the audience. As Su Qingyan was sitting there, she was clapping. Her eyes were full of pride. That expression was something I would never forget. After the ceremony ended, many colleagues came to congratulate me. Director Lin, congratulations. You really deserve this. We misunderstood you before. I smiled and accepted their congratulations. There was no resentment and no anger, because I knew. Everyone eventually recognized the truth. That night, after the celebration ended, Su Qingyan and I walked out of the hotel together. The night breeze was gentle. The city lights reflected in her eyes. You were very calm on stage, she suddenly said. I smiled, because I knew someone was watching me. She looked at me. Who? I turned my head. You. A faint smile appeared on her lips. You know, I used to think you were too stubborn, even when you were hurt. You refused to admit it, even when you were exhausted. You kept moving forward, but later I realized. That was exactly why I fell in love with you. I stopped walking. The woman beside me, the person countless people admired, the woman who had always been unreachable, was telling me why she loved me. I gently held her hand. Su Qingyan. Thank you. She looked at me. For what? For appearing in my life. She smiled. No, I should thank you. For making me believe that even someone like me could be loved sincerely. The city lights shone brightly around you. At that moment, I finally understood. Love was never about one person chasing another. It was about two people moving toward each other. One person had courage. One person had patience. And when the timing was right, two hearts finally met. A few months later, Su Qingyan and I held our wedding. Were no extravagant displays. No deliberate publicity. No unnecessary attention. Only our closest family and friends. She wore a white wedding dress, standing under the sunlight. She was still the same woman I first saw, beautiful, elegant, confident. But now, her eyes no longer carried loneliness, because she had finally found the person she had been waiting for. And I had finally found the person who believed in me before anyone else did. At the wedding ceremony, Su Qingyan looked at me and said, Lin Shin, thank you for walking toward me. I smiled. No, thank you for waiting for me. The moment our hands touched, I knew. This was not the ending of our story. It was the beginning of everything.